Be my angel, Miss Nadia, the little boy whispered through the gap in the supply closet door. Please, the doctors are coming and I don't want to die alone. Nadia Okonkwo had been hiding behind stacks of industrial cleaning supplies in the basement of Seoul's most exclusive private hospital when a child's face appeared in the darkness, small, pale, terrified. She pressed a finger to her lips, heart hammering. She was supposed to be invisible. That was the whole point of the night shift. No one noticed the cleaning staff. No one looked twice at the woman mopping floors at 2 a.m. Certainly not the debt collectors her mother had sent hunting for her. But this boy had found her, and now he was asking her to save him. If you're just tuning in, please like, subscribe, share, and click the notification button for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Your support means the world. Now let's dive in. Nadia had taken the night janitor position at Hanul Medical Center 3 weeks ago. It paid barely enough to cover her tiny room in Itaewon, but it kept her off the grid. No daytime hours meant no chance of running into the men her mother owed money to, loan sharks who'd already broken 2 of her fingers last month as a warning. She flexed her hand unconsciously, feeling the ache that never quite faded. The hospital was supposed to be safe, quiet, empty halls and sleeping patients, and nothing but the hum of machines to keep her company. But tonight, everything had gone wrong. It started with voices in the lobby, familiar voices, her mother's shrill accusations. My daughter works here. I know she does. You're hiding her from me. Nadia had run. Down the service stairs, through the maze of basement corridors, into the first unlocked closet she could find. Her mother had brought them, the collectors. She'd sold out her own daughter for whatever scraps they'd promised her. Now his 6-year-old boy was staring at her through the darkness with eyes too old for his face. How did you find me? She whispered. I was running too. He slipped through the door, small body fitting easily between the shelving units. From the nurses, they want to put me to sleep again. His lower lip trembled. What if I don't wake up this time? Nadia's chest tightened. Quote 7? Quote 8? He said it like it was the most serious thing in the world. Quote 9. Quote 10. He tilted his head, studying her face in the dim light that leaked from under the door. Quote 11. He paused. Quote 12. She almost laughed. Almost. Quote 13. Quote 14. He reached out and took her hand. His fingers were ice cold. An IV port was taped to the back of his wrist, the tube disconnected and dangling. Quote 15. She squeezed his hand gently. Quote 16. Quote 17. His voice dropped to a whisper. Quote 18. Nadia felt the floor tilt beneath her. She'd taken this job to disappear, to survive, not to get attached to a dying child in a supply closet at 2 a.m. But she couldn't walk away, not from those eyes. She crouched to his level, both hands holding his now. He said it with absolute certainty. Quote 22. Before she could respond, the closet door slammed open. Light flooded in. Nadia shielded her eyes, pulling Minjun behind her instinctively. A man stood in the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, sweet worth more than everything she'd ever owned combined. His face was carved from granite, all sharp angles and cold fury. 2 men in black flanked him like shadows. Minjun. The word was ice. Step away from her. The boy didn't move. Instead, he wrapped his arms around Nadia's waist and held tighter. No, Daddy. She's my angel. I found her. Daddy. Nadia's stomach dropped. Song Dae-won. She knew the name. Everyone in Seoul knew the name. The man who owned this hospital. The man who owned half the medical technology patents in Asia. The man the tabloids called underscore, quote, underscore 26 underscore because he hadn't smiled publicly since his wife died 4 years ago. And his son had just declared her his angel. Daewon's gaze swept over her. The cleaning uniform, the bandaged fingers, the fear she couldn't quite hide. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Quote, 27, quote, 28. The words came out steadier than she felt. Quote, 29, quote, 30. A new voice, sharp, familiar. Nadia's blood turned to ice. Her mother stepped into view, flanked by two men in cheap suits, debt collectors. They'd found her after all. Quote 31, her mother said, pointing. Quote 32. Daywin didn't even look at her. I don't recall inviting you down here. This is between family. Nothing in my hospital is between you and anyone. His voice dropped to something deadly. You're trespassing. Leave. One of the collectors stepped forward. Now listen here, rich man. The bodyguards moved, fast, efficient. One moment the collectors were advancing. The next they were face down on the concrete with their arms wrenched behind their backs. Nadia's mother screeched, quote 38. Daewon finally looked at her. The weight of that gaze was terrifying. He nodded to his men. They were dragged away. Nadia's mother was still screaming threats as she disappeared around the corner. Promises of revenge, promises of exposure, promises that this wasn't over, then silence. Minjun tugged Nadia's sleeve. See, Daddy made the monsters go away. That's what he does. Daewon crouched slowly, eyes on his son. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer. You pulled out your IV again. I don't like the medicine. It makes me sleepy and I have bad dreams. The medicine keeps you alive. But Miss Nadia keeps me brave. Minjun looked up at her with absolute trust. She's going to stay with me, right? Angels don't leave. Daewon's gaze lifted to Nadia. Assessing, unreadable. Quote 49, he said quietly, nodded at her bandaged hand. She met his stare. Refused to look away, she lifted her chin. Quote 54. Something shifted in his expression. Not pity, recognition. Minjun yawned against her hip, the adrenaline crash hitting him hard. Quote 55. Quote 56. Quote 57. The boy's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to go back to the machines alone. I want my angel. Nadia watched Daewon's jaw tighten, watched the war play out behind his eyes, control versus his son's tears. The tears won. Come, he said to Nadia. Not a request, a command. We'll discuss this upstairs. He turned and walked. Minjun grabbed Nadia's hand and followed, leaving her no choice but to move with them. They took a private elevator to the top floor, a penthouse suite that looked more like a luxury apartment than a hospital room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, medical equipment hidden behind elegant screens, a bed that probably cost more than her annual salary. Minjun crawled under the covers, still holding Nadia's hand. Quote 61. She looked at Daewon. He stood by the window, phone already in his hand, but his eyes were on her. Quote 62, he said. Quote 63, he stopped, swallowed. Quote 64. Nadia sat on the edge of the bed and picked up the worn picture book. A guardian angel with golden wings protecting a small boy from shadows. She began to read, soft and low, and within minutes, Minjun's breathing slowed. He's asleep, she whispered. Daewon crossed to the bed, looked down at his son for a long moment, then gestured toward the door. They stepped into the adjacent sitting room. Your mother's debt collectors won't stop, he said without preamble. They know where you work now. They'll be back. I'll find another job. Where? Another night shift where they can corner you alone? He shook his head once. You have two options. Keep running until they catch you or let me solve this. Nadia bristled. I don't need a savior. I'm not offering salvation. I'm offering a transaction. He moved to a small bar, poured himself something dark, didn't offer her any. Quote 73, quote 74, quote 75. Daewon turned to face her. Quote 76. Nadia's throat tightened. You made him feel safe, Daewon continued. In a supply closet, while you were both running from your own demons, he felt safe with you. He set down the glass. I want to hire you, not as cleaning staff, as Minjun's companion, live in position. You read to him, eat meals with him, keep him calm before procedures. In return, I pay off your mother's debt and provide security that ensures no one touches you again. You want to buy me. I want to save my son. His voice cracked, just barely. He goes into surgery in 7 days. If he's not calm, if his stress levels spike, The risk of complications doubles. I've tried nannies, nurses, therapists. He screams, he fights. He tore out his central line twice last month because he said the shadows were coming for him. Daewon stepped closer. You sat with him for 10 minutes and he fell asleep holding your hand. Tell me what that's worth. Nadia looked through the glass door at the sleeping boy. Small body curled around a pillow, breathing steady for maybe the first time in weeks. And after? She asked quietly. After the surgery. When he recovers, what then? Then you walk away with a fresh start, new documents if you need them, enough money to disappear properly, somewhere your mother will never find you. And if I stay? Daewon went still. She wasn't sure why she'd said it. The words just came. He studied her face for a long moment. Let's see if he survives the week first. Nadia moved into the penthouse suite the next morning. The housekeeper brought clothes that fit perfectly, designer labels removed, tags cut, nothing flashy. Practical, thoughtful. She tried not to think about how he'd known her sizes. Minjun woke up grinning. Quote 89, quote 90, quote 91. He patted the bed beside him. Quote 92. For 3 days, they fell into a rhythm. Mornings playing card games while nurses did their rounds. Afternoons reading stories or watching cartoons on the massive screen. Evenings walking slowly through the hospital's rooftop garden. Minjun's hand in hers, his IV pole wheeling beside them. Daewon appeared at meals, sat across from them, while Minjun chattered about dragons and angels and whether Nadia could braid hair like his mother used to. The boy talked about his mother often, casually, like she'd just stepped out and might return any moment. Nadia learned to follow his lead. She also learned to read Daewon. The way his shoulders dropped fractionally when Minjun laughed. The way his eyes tracked every cough, every wince, every moment of pallor. The way he stood outside the suite door at 3 a.m., listening before walking away. On the fourth night, she found him in the garden alone, staring at the city lights with a glass in his hand. He's sleeping, she said, stepping onto the terrace. No nightmares tonight. Daewon didn't turn. He drained the glass. Quote 98. His voice was raw. Quote 99. Nadia moved to stand beside him. Quote 100. Quote 101. Quote 102. Daewon finally looked at her. In the dim light, his face was younger, more vulnerable. Quote 103. Quote 104. Quote 105. Quote 106. She held his gaze. Quote 107. His jaw tightened. Quote 108. Quote 109. She stepped closer. Quote 110. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Daewon reached out, slowly, carefully, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek. Quote 111, he murmured. Quote 112. His phone shattered the moment, shrill and insistent. He pulled back, checked the screen, and his expression went cold. Quote 113, he said flatly. Quote 114, quote 115 before he could answer. The elevator doors opened. A woman swept into the penthouse like a winter storm. Silver hair immaculate, hanbok traditional, and clearly worth a fortune. Eyes that could cut glass. Quote 116. The name was a whip crack. Quote 117. Nadia went rigid. Daewon stepped in front of her, subtle but unmistakable. Quote 118. Quote 119. The matriarch's gaze found Nadia over his shoulder, assessed, dismissed. Who is she? A nurse? A new conquest? Because I won't have another scandal. Not when the merger is... She's Minjun's caretaker. Minjun has nurses. Minjun has nightmares. He hasn't slept through the night in months until she arrived. His stress levels have dropped 40%. His appetite has returned. For the first time in a year, he talks about the future like he believes he'll have one. Something flickered in the old woman's eyes, gone as quickly as it came. His mother laughed, cold and sharp. The word was ice. Quote 129, quote 130, quote 131. Silence stretched between them. Nadia barely breathed. Finally, the matriarch smiled. Thin, dangerous. Quote 132. She gestured at Nadia dismissively. Quote 133. She turned and left. The elevator doors closed behind her. Day One's hands were shaking. Nadia could see the tremor as he gripped the back of a chair. She's wrong, Nadia said quietly. She's not. He laughed bitterly. The stock did dip when photos surfaced. People are asking questions. If this looks like a scandal, then make it look like something else. He turned to face her. What do you mean? Nadia's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. Quote 139. She stepped toward him. Quote 140. Quote 141. Quote 142. The surgery was scheduled for dawn. Nadia sat beside Minjun's bed, holding his hand as nurses prepped lines and machine beeped their steady rhythm. The boy was calm. Too calm, the doctor said. It unnerved them. But Nadia understood. I'm not scared anymore, Minjun had told her the morning. Because you'll be here when I wake up. Angels don't leave. The engagement announcement had dropped 2 days earlier. Every major outlet carried the story. Reclusive billionaire finds love with mystery woman. Son's caretaker becomes future stepmother. The narrative Daewon's PR team spun was elegant. Childhood sweethearts reunited, romance rekindled, family formed in the midst of medical crisis. His mother had gone silent, furious but contained. She couldn't attack a fiancé without looking petty. Nadia's mother was a different matter. She'd seen the news and started calling, texting, showing up at the hospital gates with cameras in tow, claiming her daughter was being held hostage by a powerful man. The security team handled her, but the stress was mounting. Now wasn't the time to think about that. Minjin squeezed her fingers. Miss Nadia. Yes, sweetheart. When I wake up, can we get a puppy? She laughed through tears. We can discuss it with your daddy. He'll say yes. Minjin grinned. He says yes to everything now, because of you. Day One appeared in the doorway. The surgical team was waiting behind him. His face was pale but controlled. It's time, Minjun. The boy nodded solemnly. Then he looked at Nadia one more time. Promise you'll be here? She kissed his forehead. I promise. They wheeled him away. Nadia stood frozen in the empty room until Daewon's hand found hers. Quote 154, he said quietly. Quote 155. This story gets even more intense. If you want to see what happens next, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on so you don't miss a thing. 6 hours. The surgery was supposed to take 4. By hour 5, Nadia was pacing. By hour 6, Day One had stopped speaking entirely. The waiting room was private, expensive, meaningless when your child was on the table. When the surgeon finally emerged, her face was unreadable. Quote 156, she said, and Nadia's knees nearly buckled. But there were complications. His heart stopped twice on the table. We resuscitated him both times, but the stress on his system was significant. The next 48 hours are critical. If he survives that window, his prognosis is good. If, Daewon's voice was barely a whisper. Quote 158, quote 159. They followed her into the ICU. Minjun was impossibly small under all the wires and tubes, but his chest was rising and falling. His monitors were beeping steadily. He was alive. Nadia took his hand, cold but present, still there. Quote 160, she whispered. Quote 161. Daewon stood beside her, silent. Then his arm came around her shoulder and he pulled her close. He was shaking. The cold king of Seoul was shaking like a child. She held him while he broke. 48 hours. They didn't leave Minjun's bedside. Nurses brought food that went uneaten. Daewon's phone buzzed endlessly. Board members, reporters, his mother, and he silenced it all. On hour 36, Minjun opened his eyes. Daddy. His voice was a thread. Daewon was there instantly. I'm here, buddy. I'm right here. Miss Nadia. Right here. She squeezed into his field of vision, tears streaming. Right here. Minjun smiled weakly. I saw Mommy. In my dream. She said to tell you she's happy. Nadia watched something shatter and reform in Daewon's face. Quote 168. The boy's eyes drooped. I'm sleepy now. Then sleep, sweetheart. We'll be here when you wake up. He drifted off. The monitor stayed steady. Day-One turned to Nadia, eyes wet. He hasn't mentioned his mother in 2 years. Not like that, not peaceful. Maybe he finally feels safe enough to remember her without pain. Day-One reached for her, pulled her into his arms, held on like she was the only solid thing in the world. I don't want this to be fake anymore, he murmured against her hair. The engagement, the arrangement, any of it? Nadia pulled back to look at him. What are you saying? I'm saying I need you, not as his caretaker, not as a press strategy. He struggled with the word. As someone I come home to. Someone who sees me break and stays anyway. Someone who argues with me and terrifies me and makes my son laugh. You barely know me. I know enough. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know you ran from your own family to protect yourself. I know you stayed for a stranger's child anyway. I know you walked into my mother's fury without flinching. I know you held my son's hand while he went into surgery and didn't let go. Nadia's breath caught. He said. She kissed him, soft at first, then deeper as his arms tightened around her. Years of walls crumbling in seconds. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. Quote, 183, quote, 184. He laughed. The first real laugh she'd heard from him. It transformed his entire face. Then let's table this discussion for somewhere more appropriate. Deal. Minjun recovered. It took weeks of careful monitoring, adjusted medications, and countless small victories, but he recovered. The color returned to his cheeks. His appetite came back. He started asking about school, about friends, about the puppy he'd been promised. Nadia moved into the Song residence officially, not as staff, as family. The tabloids went wild, of course. Mystery fiancé moves into billionaire's mansion. Child's miraculous recovery, attributed to new stepmother's care. Some headlines were kind, others were vicious. Nadia's mother made one final attempt, showed up at the mansion gates with a camera crew, screaming about kidnapping and theft and blood debts. Day-One's legal team was waiting. Every forged document, every fraudulent loan taken in Nadia's name, every threat and assault. They had evidence of all of it. Her mother was arrested on 17 charges. The debt collectors who'd broken Nadia's fingers were tracked down and prosecuted. For the first time in her adult life, Nadia was free. But freedom came with complications. Day-One's mother hadn't given up. She'd just gotten smarter. The board is requesting a formal meeting, Day-One told Nadia one evening, 3 months after Minjun's surgery. They were in his study, Minjun asleep upstairs, the city glittering beyond the windows. Quote, 188. Quote, 189. Quote, 190. He rubbed his temples. He looked up sharply. She crossed to his desk, placed both hands on the surface. She smiled. Quote, 198. The board meeting was held in the Song Group's headquarters, glass and steel tower reaching toward the clouds. 40 executives in tailored suits around a polished table. Day-One's mother sat at the far end, eyes gleaming with anticipated triumph. Nadia walked in, wearing a simple black dress, no jewelry except the engagement ring Day-One had given her, a modest band with a single sapphire, Minjun's birthstone. She stood at the head of the table, didn't sit, didn't shrink. I understand there are questions about me, she began, so let me answer them. I grew up poor. My mother was an addict who stole my identity to fund her debts. I worked nights cleaning hospitals because it was the only way to stay invisible from the people hunting me. I have no prestigious family name, no connections, no pedigree. Murmurs rippled around the room. Day-One's mother smiled. Quote, 201. Nadia continued. Quote, 202. She pulled out a folder, placed it on the table. Quote, 203. The murmurs turned to silence. Quote, 204. She met the matriarch's eyes across the table. I'm not a liability. I'm an asset you haven't figured out how to use yet. She turned and walked out. Day-One found her in the lobby 10 minutes later. The board approved the engagement, he said, slightly dazed. Unanimously. 3 of them asked if you'd consult on the expansion analysis. Nadia exhaled. And your mother? Left without speaking. A slow smile spread across his face. I've never seen her speechless before. First time for everything. He pulled her into his arms right there in the lobby, kissed her thoroughly while executives and assistants pretended not to watch. Marry me, he murmured against her lips. I thought we were already engaged. That was strategy. This is real. He pulled back, eyes bright. Marry me, Nadia. Be my wife. Be Minjun's mother. Build this life with me. She pretended to consider it. Do I still get to reorganize your charitable foundation? You can reorganize anything you want. Then yes. Minjun's reaction to the news was predictable. Quote, 219. He bounced on his bed, energy levels finally matching a normal 6-year-old. Quote, 220. Quote, 221. Daiwin ruffled his hair. Quote, 222. Quote, 223. Nadia's heart stopped. Minjun looked at her, suddenly shy. Is that okay? I know I already had a mommy, but she's in heaven now and you're here and... Nadia dropped to her knees and pulled him into her arms. You can call me whatever feels right to you. Mommy feels right. His voice was muffled against her shoulder. You feel right. She held him tighter. Over his head, she saw Daewon wiping his eyes. They were married in the hospital garden, where Minjun had taken his first walks after surgery. Small ceremony, trusted friends, Minjun as ring bearer, flower boy, and enthusiastic commentator. They're kissing again, he announced to the assembled guests when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife. They do that a lot now. It's gross, but also nice. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Nadia wore cream silk with African print accents woven into the hem, a nod to her Nigerian heritage that she'd never celebrated before. Daewon wore traditional hanbok with modern lines. They blended cultures like they blended lives, imperfectly, beautifully. During the reception, Minjun tugged Nadia aside. Quote, 230. He pressed a folded paper into her hands. She opened it to find a crayon drawing, 3 figures under a giant red heart, Daddy, Mommy, and me, written in wobbly letters at the bottom. Quote, 231, he explained seriously. Quote, 232. Nadia couldn't speak through the tears. Daewon found them like that, his wife crying over a crayon drawing, while his son patted her hand reassuringly. What did I miss? Nadia held up the drawing. Daewon's expression softened into something she'd never seen before. Pure, uncomplicated joy. He's right, you know. He pulled them both into his arms. You did fix us. Both of us. You fixed me too, she whispered. I was so busy surviving I forgot what living felt like. You reminded me. Minjun squirmed between them. Family hug is getting squished. They laughed and loosened their hold, but not completely, never completely. Outside, soul sparkled in the evening light. Inside, a family stood together, formed not by blood, but by choice, by chance, by a little boy who saw an angel hiding in the shadows and decided she belonged to him. Be my angel, Miss Nadia, he'd asked, and she was. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Click that notification bell so you never miss another story like this. Your support means everything. Until next time.